how's it going, Average Joes? Today, I want to talk about something a little bit different. I'm not going to be talking about any sort of specific books or lists. Today, I just want to talk about a sort of mindset when it comes to reading. Reading is supposed to be, a hobby for enjoyment. Typically, most people that's why we read. There's something that I found myself saying, and then I've noticed other people have been saying it, whether it's booktubers or just people who read avidly and are in the reading space. And that is the feeling that you need to do better with reading. I find myself saying this a lot, that whenever we can't get to certain books, I just need to do better. I need to read this person. I need to read this series. I need to finish this one. I just need to do better. And I took a step back and I realized, that's not really the right way to think about it, because this is supposed to be a hobby completely for enjoyment. And that's what I just wanted to, kind of spitball and talk about today. I think it's easy to get into this mindset of needing to do more and better because we see all kinds of people reading a lot. If you watch a lot of booktubers and are in Discord communities and you're constantly around people that read a ton, you see what you read and you see so many other books being read, and you're just like, oh, well, I need to read as much as this person, or I need to get to this series because everybody's talking about it. I'm sure we all have all kinds of lists that we have. I myself have 3 different book lists on Amazon, one for Kindle Unlimited, and one for physical books that I want, specifically that. We all own a bunch of books. I know whenever there's books that go on sale or like gifts, whenever people want gifts, they're always getting books, and you have these bookshelves full of books that are unread. And I know on my Kindle as well, I have a ton of books on my Kindle that, anytime they go on sale, I just add them and buy them so that I can have them for later. So these growing lists and books that we own gives us such a need to want to read all these. It should be a want for enjoyment, a goal to get to, not a need of, okay, I just really need to get to all these because I own them. But that's not really the right way you should be thinking about it, because again, this is just a hobby. This is just something that you should completely do for enjoyment. To go, step back and go backwards in time, I started thinking about, why did I start reading? When did I start reading? I didn't start reading until I was an adult. I really didn't get into it until I was in the military, and I started reading because in the military, you're kind of usually separated from any sort of TV entertainment. Back then, YouTube and Facebook and all these things were blocked on the computers. So if you're on gate guard duty or you're deployed and you're in just staying in a tent, you have nothing but books to read. Like if you want to do anything, it's basically books to read. Sometimes, people have their laptops and play video games and stuff, but I don't really want to get a laptop for gaming. So it was just books. So I was like, okay, I got a Kindle, and I started reading. And I read and I enjoyed it. I was like, cool, I like these books. But then when I got back, I stopped reading because like, okay, I don't need this anymore because I have, my TV, my Xbox, and all my friends and that stuff. Fast forward a couple of years later, I studied abroad. I started reading again because, again, in my place that I stayed when I was studying abroad, didn't have a TV, and the TV there, like, it just had a bunch of stuff that I didn't really know or care about. So I read a ton. And again, I realized that I really liked it. But when I got back, took another break, and then I started reading again. So I've had this on and off relationship with reading. Started reading it again when I had a horrendous commute for work every day, and I went to audiobooks. Started reading audiobooks, and this is when my wife and I were together, and she always really liked reading. So we started doing some audiobooks together or books that we both like or that she's already read, and I was catching up. Then we started reading together, and I was like, okay, well, I actually enjoy this. And then, when I stopped having that horrendous commute because I started working from home, thank God. I started reading at home. I like just before bed on my Kindle because I already had the Kindle. I was like, okay, well, if I have this, I still have these other books that I kind of want to get into now that I'm getting into reading. And then it has slowly grown over time to now I read about 70 books a year. And obviously I started this channel because, since I read a ton, I might as well talk about them. So my desire to read in the beginning was just to have something to do, fulfill entertainment out of necessity. Then it grew into actually enjoying reading, and now I really enjoy reading, and it becomes somewhat of a priority. But now that all of these, I still enjoy reading as much as I do, but I own so many books, and there's so many lists, and then now with producing content on YouTube and all this stuff, it's like turns into more of a hobby, but partially like almost like a job. It feels at times to where I need to keep on reading. I need to do better at reading because I need to keep up with all the series that I'm reading, that other people are reading, so I know what's going on, or with my own content and all of these things. And I just think that that's probably not the best way to think about it. And I'm usually pretty good at self-assessing and being very rational and logical with how I approach things, like my tiered lists and whatnot. I've typically been pretty good to stepping back from reading and taking breaks. And like we've traveled a bunch this year, and even I've still read 70 plus books this year, but I've gone weeks without reading very much. I was just on a 2.5 week trip, and I read all like 4 chapters. And then earlier this year, when I went to Tanzania for 2.5 weeks, also then I only read a handful of chapters because we were already always doing stuff, and that's kind of a good break to have. And I never really cared about the reading then. So I think it's important to remember, where you started, why you started reading, why you enjoy reading so much, and just keep that in mind. And this goes to, remembering that it's a hobby. And this is also why I don't do TBRs. And just to remember that, even if you make TBRs, if that's your thing, that's great. If it keeps you on track, keeps you planned, that's great. But you should never feel stressed out by a TBR. If you put together a list of books and you don't get to them all, who cares? At least you read. You shouldn't get this and be like, oh no, I didn't finish all these books that I had on. I need to do better, because that gives you yourself the smallest negative connotation with reading. And then I just don't think that's very great. And it's just, mindset's a big thing. And we talk about a lot with, I work in fitness, and that's a big role with fitness and health and everything. So I think it definitely applies in reading. And it is definitely good to take a break, as I mentioned, and to go off the fitness thing again. In fitness, we have what's called Deload Weeks. So I work for a fitness company. We do programming. And then, every 4 weeks, we are taking a deload week to where, our normal workouts kind of get scaled back of like either volume or intensity. It's not an easy week, but it's a less intense, less harder week, because you need to rest. Your body needs to rest. You need to recuperate. You need a little bit of a break. And I think that's good to have in reading. It seems like every month people have these ever-growing TBRs and buddy reads and all of those. And it's like, sometimes you just have to stop and take a break, pull back a little bit, go out into the world, go do things with friends and travel. And I see that some people, whenever we have friends visiting or other people have friends visiting, just like, I'm not going to read now because they're here. I'm just going to hang out with them. So it's good to give yourself a break, and knowing the difference between like completely slacking off and just not reading because you're binging shows that you've already seen 4 times, or hey, I'm actually doing stuff, I'm actually traveling, I'm actually visiting friends, so I don't need to worry about reading right now because I'm still making the most use of my time. And I'm definitely a proponent of making the best use of my time, always being somewhat productive. Even when we watch TV and shows, we're usually always watching something new that we've never watched before, and the only time we watch things that we have watched is if we're like multitasking, cooking, eating dinner, getting ready to go to bed, kind of thing. So maximizing your time, but not worrying about reading a certain amount. And that's going back to the saying of, I need to do better with reading. Like, you don't need to do better with reading. All you need to do with reading is enjoy it. This was just my little quick soapbox thing that I had, that I thought, I really just thought of this last night as I was, attempting to fall asleep and unsuccessful. But I wanted to share, because I think it could help some people to, a subtle mindset shift of just, being more relaxed with their reading. And that's why I also don't do TBRs. That's why I have priority tiered lists, because it's like, okay, I know the books that I want to focus on to get, and everything else will just be mood reading and will fit in where it does. I do quarterly wrap ups, and, what I want to read. And then it's pretty soon, possibly my next video will be my priority tiered list for the entire year. And then that will stay the same the entire year. And I'll just fill in whenever I want and do a lot of mood reading. And I have always recommended to do mood reading and making priority tier lists, because it's less of an obligation and less structured. You won't feel less pressure to finish certain things. It will just be, okay, as long as I get my priorities out there, I have a long timeline, fill in whatever I want from there. But stop saying you need to do better with reading. Just enjoy reading. And that's all I have for this one. And I'll see you in the next video.